Today, guys, I want to give you a little walkthrough on how to minimize your accent in English for sales. Now, before I get deeper into this whole concept, I want you guys to bear in mind that the accent is not the main thing that's gonna trigger the success that you're looking for as a high-ticket closer, okay? Because prospects, all they're looking for is for you to understand their issue and try to articulate the best solution possible for them at that particular stage. Basically, as long as you can actually communicate in a clear and articulate way whatever you have in your head, you should be good, okay? So don't get over obsessed about the accent that you have. Now, that out of the way, it is true that when someone notices a foreign accent, they do have some kind of bias, some kind of unconscious bias, and they start seeing you as an outsider. So they would actually start building up prejudice against you just because of the accent. Now, I'm not saying that's gonna, that it's something racist or anything like that. All I'm saying is that there's some kind of unconscious idea that the fact that you have an accent might indicate that you're not an expert or that you would not be as ready as someone that can speak completely clearly and fluently in their language, right? So that's why it's so important to make a lot of research and to try to polish your accent as much as possible on the long run to make sure that you minimize these effects. Now, you also need to bear in mind that trying to completely erase your accent often backfires and it can make you sound fake, robotic, and hesitant. So this creates tension and signals a lack of confidence in the prospect's mind. The prospect's brain decides in the first few seconds whether your speech requires a high mental effort or a low mental effort. So the goal is not to sound perfectly American, but to be classified as low effort so that they can actually focus on your message. Now, there are three major factors that you should be taking into account when it comes to your accent. The first mistake is developing a monotone intonation. American English uses dynamic intonation with ups and downs to convey enthusiasm and confidence. So a flat monotone delivery sounds boring, robotic, and lacking conviction. The second big mistake is direct translation sentence structures. Now, this refers to translating phrases literally from your native language, which results in phrases that sound awkward and unnatural to American ears. So an example of this could be a sentence like, okay, so I will demonstrate you the functioning of this system. Now compare that to this other sentence which sounds way more natural. Let me show you how this works. The third big mistake that I see concerning your accent is inconsistent word stress. So English is a stress time language and emphasizing the wrong syllables or giving each syllable equal weight makes words way more difficult to recognize and forces the prospect to work harder to understand you. Now, if I were to explain this with an analogy, American English is a music-based language where rhythm and melody carry more meaning than precise pronunciation. So getting the music right helps prospects understand you even with an accent. Now, the big differentiation when it comes to intonation is the difference between statements and questions. So in this case, statements have a falling intonation. So take a look at this sentence. This will save you money. Now compare that to questions that have a rising intonation. So imagine this other sentence. Are you interested in saving money? So if you get these patterns wrong and you mix them up, this can quickly destroy your authority. Now, a few other factors to take into account is sentence stress and linking words. Now, what I mean by sentence stress is emphasizing keywords to guide the prospect's attention to your most important points. And then linking refers to connecting words to create a smooth, natural flow instead of a choppy word-by-word speech. Now, one of the main practices and activities that you should be focusing your time on to reduce this accent and these intonation issues is language shadowing, like I covered on the previous trainings. The practice of immediately repeating a native speaker's words, mimicking their exact rhythm and intonation. And don't worry, because in order to do this, I provided a bunch of different videos and sales calls on the resources of this training so that you can actually never run out of material to work with. Performing this kind of shadowing exercises on a consistent basis will actually train your brain and mouth muscles to pronounce American speech patterns automatically. Now, in order to put this into practice, you can use all sorts of videos. Honestly, if you actually want to progress fast on this, I would really recommend that you do this for at least an hour every single day. Now, there are a few exercises that you can do to actually put this into practice. One of them is the minimal pair exercises, where you should be distinguishing between sounds that change meaning in sales context. For example, things like price versus prize, save versus safe, things like that. Another kind of drill that you can do is linking to try to sound more smooth. So what you do here is to try and practice connecting words to avoid sounding choppy and robotic. Another kind of accent drill that you can implement while you are doing these shadowing exercises when you watch videos is try to tell the difference between raising intonation for questions and falling intonation for confident statements. Also, another factor that you can practice is the pacing and the pause control. So in this case, what you do is you try to practice using strategic pauses to create emphasis, build suspense, and give prospects time to think and process the information. Remember that the spaces between your words are as powerful sometimes as the words themselves. So strategic pauses demonstrate confidence, create emphasis, and give prospects necessary processing time. Now, if you actually want to stick to this and make it work on the long term, you actually need to come up with a plan that you can do on a consistent basis and actually make sure that you do this every single day for at least 3 months. So the way that this would look like is on the first month, you want to do the foundation phase where you at least practice 15 minutes every day and you focus entirely on intonation patterns and basic shadowing. So at this stage, you do not apply any live calls yet. Then on the second month, you get onto the integration phase where you actually continue the daily practice, but then you also begin adding targeted pronunciation drills and incorporating strategic pauses into the actual sales calls. And then your focus should shift to recording and analyzing your own sales calls for continuous refinement and polishing. Remember that your accent is not a weakness to hide. It's a personal differentiator that you need to polish every single day. The objective here is not to sound like you're from Ohio. It's to remove the specific speech patterns that trigger cognitive overload in the American brain, allowing your message to be heard way more clearly. And I want you to start with a 5-minute shadowing session today. Confidence comes from competence, and these systems provide the roadmap that you need.